Flying long-haul in economy class is where most of us end up. Airlines from mainland China have more than their fair share of bad press with regards to their in-flight product. Let me use this opportunity to dispel this myth, and let's dive into the world of 中国南方航空, China Southern Airlines.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up.
G'day guys, and welcome back to my video, and I'm coming to you today from Guangzhou Baiyun 国际机场, and the locals will call it Guangzhou Baiyun 机场. So we are here today because we arrived from Melbourne into Guangzhou for a 19-hour transit, and we are continuing our journey today from here in Guangzhou to London Heathrow Airport. So come along with me to see what this long-haul flight on China Southern Airlines is gonna be like. So let's do this.
Everybody just do your thing.
If you're new to my channel, my name's Ryan. Born and bred in Singapore, I now call Australia home, and I create heaps of travel and food-related content. This trip sees us set foot in 5 countries over the course of 2.5 weeks. We stop in China for a first glimpse into an often misunderstood country. And then we set off to the UK, where we'd spend most of our time in Scotland as part of a wedding party. And what an eventful week that was. We then make our way towards Scandinavia, stopping in Denmark, and I pay homage to Sweden, because every person alive needs to visit the ABBA Museum and know that the meatballs you have in IKEA taste nothing like the ones in Sweden. We make a brief stop in Finland before heading back to the UK for our extremely long flight back home. This travel series will be filled with flight reports, destination vlogs, and a train journey thrown in for good measure. And these videos will be linked in the description as and when they're published. So make sure you hit the subscribe and the bell icon so you won't miss the next episode coming up. Giving me a like is a good way to support my channel. So here's the thanks, because it's very much appreciated. China Southern Airlines is mainland China's largest carrier, flying some 667 aircraft at the last count. Since Guangzhou is their home base, unsurprisingly, Baiyun Airport is China's busiest, handling over 63 million passengers annually. By that statistic, Baiyun is also the world's 12th busiest airport. Baiyun gives you a taste of the impressive airport infrastructure this country showcases, which puts a lot of other first world developed countries to shame. We're now walking through Terminal 2, which was opened in 2018. The older Terminal 1 was opened in 2004. That replaced the original Baiyun Airport, which was located quite literally in the middle of Guangzhou City. The Baiyun Airport we know today is located some 30 kilometers north of Guangzhou City. And these 2 terminals combined are some of the world's largest airport terminal spaces ever constructed. It is noteworthy that the airport security checks are extremely thorough here at Baiyun, and I'm assuming, by extension, all of China's other airports as well. As I travel with lots of filming gear, every single cable, battery bank, mobile phones, external hard drives, and extra battery for my camera and GoPro were removed for a closer look. My laptop bag was then brought back to be scanned, a grand total of 3 times, because I kept forgetting there was an extra battery I'd forgotten about chucked away somewhere in the bag. I took a total of 20 minutes unpacking and packing my laptop bag until they were satisfied I was safe enough to fly. All this while, the officers were firm but very polite about it. I played the understanding passenger and just went along with their request. But many other passengers were getting upset at the scrutiny. The officers spoke almost no English, which added to the frustration of those getting searched. Because this was really my final few hours in China before heading to Europe for the next 2 weeks, I needed to load up on my curious culinary cravings for all things flavorful. Baiyun Airport does not disappoint when it comes to restaurants, but they are very randomly spaced apart from each other. So if you're not familiar with this terminal, you'd miss out on some great food items, like this serve of 5-spice braised pork belly and pig intestines. I feel some of you cringing already, but here's a little personal trivia. I'd eat offals from a pig as long as they aren't from Australia, because Aussie pork does have a very distinctive aftertaste due to the type of animal feed they use. Baiyun Airport serves the population which is part of the Pearl River Delta metropolitan region. This area hosts a combined population of around 86 million, which is immensely crowded. Therefore, this explains why Baiyun isn't the only mega airport here. Just a little over 100 kilometers south, we have Hong Kong International. North of the border sits Shenzhen Bao'an International Airport. And across the bay, we have both Macau International Airport and Zhuhai Jinwan Airport, within stone's throw of each other. I really do not envy being an air traffic controller trying to manage this airspace. Here we are, just about to board our long-haul flight to London. Gate agents went amongst us, yelling very loudly, 升舱吗？有谁要升舱？升舱，可以升舱。 These upgrades were being dangled in front of us like a wet market at closing time, and vendors were hawking the last of their goods at a knocked-off price. At 8,000 renminbi per passenger, which works out to be around 1,600 Australian dollars, we decided not to take up the offer. If you're flying China Southern long haul from Guangzhou, chances are you'd be boarding a 787 Dreamliner. My pick would have been the newer Airbus A350, but I'd have to depart from Beijing Daxing Airport for that to happen. Operating flight CZ303 between Guangzhou Baiyun and London Heathrow this afternoon was Bravo 1297, a Boeing 787-9, which first flew in June 2018, making her just over 6 years old at the time of writing. The welcome at the door was really enthusiastic, and like a dental ad, all the crews were proudly showing their pearly whites as they audibly ushered us on board in both Mandarin and English. There are 3 configurations of Dreamliners with China Southern. This one we were on today was configured in a 2-class layout with 28 business class seats, featuring the Thomson Vantage shell seats in a staggered fashion. And back here, there are 269 economy class seats in a 333 layout. On today's flight, we were seated at row 63 on the left-hand side. Along the way, there were more friendly faces greeting us, and we were even personally ushered to our seats. I suppose this is the perks of being the first few passengers to board. The environment is now becoming very familiar. So let's begin with this amazing seat pitch of 32 inches, which impressively also features a footrest. There's a universal AC socket down there, which came in very useful for me later in flight. By the way, despite being seated in the last row, I can safely report that recline wasn't at all compromised. And together with the amazing pitch and footrest, this made for a comfy ride in economy all the way to London. To enhance your comfort, you're also provided with a blanket, an amenity kit with basic needs within, and a pillow. All in all, I think this is a pretty decent offering. It is very common to have air traffic control delays departing China because the airspace is controlled by the military. So we've just been informed that our pushback is delayed for now because they don't have any information about when we're pushing back. So we were also told not to stand up or crowd around the aisle just in case there is an emergency evacuation. Yeah, so delays are apparently very, very common when you are departing airports in China, and today is one such flight. Yeah, so they will let us know when the new pushback time is. We had spent so much time on the ground, I was able to complete a documentary about one of China's engineering marvel, the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge, which is the world's longest bridge built over water. Pushback eventually occurred, some 1 hour 15 minutes behind our scheduled departure time of 1:30 p.m. And by then, even the ground had dried up from the torrential downpour earlier on. Our Dreamliner easily lifted off into the sultry, humid summer skies of Baiyun. Our flight path saw us initially head northwards towards Mongolia. The majority of our flight will be over the vast expanse of Russia, before we head over the border into Finland, where we'd then journey over Scandinavia before carrying out a scenic approach around London for a landing at Heathrow Airport, completing this flight in a very zippy 11 hours 35 minutes, making this one of the fastest way to fly to London from this region. Comparatively, if you were to fly from Hong Kong, which is just 100 kilometers south of Guangzhou, the flight path taken after leaving Mongolia is a southerly one over Central Asia, then journeying over Europe, which takes 14 hours. Suppose it pays to be pals with the Russians. The in-flight service began really quickly as soon as we were in a steady climb towards our cruising altitude. It started with the distribution of these sanitary wet wipes, which were then followed by a second team of flight attendants with bar service. Everyone worked really quickly to get everything out in quick time. And the next thing you know, another team of flight attendants had rotated and the meal carts were now in sight. By now, this being my second flight with China Southern, I was expecting nothing less than an excellent showing as far as in-flight meals go. Today, we were presented with beef and potatoes, or stir-fried chicken and rice. These meal trays came with a starter of potato salad, cherry tomato, and a curious-looking slice of ham with what looked like a large pimple on it, fresh fruits, a warm, soft roll with butter, and a sweet treat of a Chinese-styled pineapple tart. And depending on which part of the Chinese-speaking world you're from, that's a Huang Li Bing, Bo Luo Bing, or Huang Li Shu. The suspicious-looking ham turned out to be rather tasty, so no real complaints there. And the stir-fried chicken was also very agreeable. And the Jingzhong in me was eternally grateful for rice, as always. And to end the meal, the pineapple tart was really awesome. We find this tart in various forms all around Asia, and the flavors are something I'm very familiar with growing up in Singapore. So this definitely brought back intense feelings of nostalgia. This being a daytime flight, it was no issue at all staying awake because while the entertainment system on China Southern isn't exactly what I call top-notch, the amount of content they had in there was rather acceptable. I did not have an issue selecting movies I otherwise would not have paid money to watch. And there were also some Chinese titles which I was curious about. Perhaps the airline also knows we need to stay awake for this westbound daytime flight to Europe. So much so, the lights came back on somewhere over the halfway mark of our journey. What the hell is going on here? And lo and behold, we were given hot towels to signify the start of another full meal service. Naturally, this full meal service was preceded with a bar service, where we had a choice of a full range of drinks. The options for this second meal was a chicken with rice, which now looked very fierce with that fiery reddish color, and a rather safe-looking creamy fish with potato gratin, which also came with steamed pumpkin, carrots, and some sort of gourd or melon. Accompanying the mains were a starter of prawn cocktail salad, fruits, and a soft roll with butter. You can never go wrong with a prawn cocktail, although they've added raisins into it, which I thought was rather interesting. The creamy fish was actually very tasty, and that strange combination of a steamed sliced melon actually worked. I once again cleaned everything up like a vacuum cleaner. In fact, I enjoyed the fish so much I asked for a second serve. That's why you see 2 aluminum containers stacked together. And I wrapped all of that up as well. I definitely won't be arriving into London hungry. That much I can tell you. Somewhere over Scandinavia, they came around to feed us some more with trays of sandwiches and a mini drink service. By now, even for me, who has such a huge appetite, gave up and just said no to the tasty sandwiches. It looked like a simple ham and cheese from what I could tell. But nah, I just could not eat anymore. This flight from Guangzhou to London seems to have gone by in a flash. And we're now in the final phase of our journey. As we see London City in the distance, it is now time to conclude our first ever long-haul experience on China Southern Airlines. And here's our very long journey from Australia to the UK via China. In case you weren't aware, there are 2 more earlier parts to this video series which began in Melbourne, and then covering our overnight 19-hour transit stay in Guangzhou. The evening arrival in China, followed by a comfortable stay at the Novotel, and then getting on this daytime flight to London to arrive in the evening. It's definitely an excellent way to beat jet lag. I did not mind that this journey was done in economy class, because the seats were comfy, we were fed very well, and the flight attendants fussing over us were all pleasantly hard-working and very engaging. However, the next challenge at the end of this series would be doing this entire journey in reverse back to Australia, without an overnight stop in China. How would we fare? I hope you'd stay tuned for that one. For now, it's time to wrap up this video. And after the modernity of Guangzhou's dazzling airport, nothing reminds you of how far the developed first world has fallen behind, like arriving into London Heathrow Terminal 4.
Well guys, welcome to London Heathrow Airport Terminal 4. So that was my flight with China Southern, and this is the beginning of my visit here in Europe. So I'm heading up north to Scotland, and I will make my way through Denmark, Sweden, Finland. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you can keep track of my episodes that's coming up. And and as usual, your support for this channel is very much appreciated. Alright, so in the meantime, I'll say goodbye to all of you here while I go take a rest. And yeah, stay safe, and I will see you for my next video. Bye.